Commander Dongwoo Kim stood at the edge of the observation deck on Nexus Prime. The massive space station stretched out before him like a metal city floating in the void. Thousands of ships from 12 different species moved in and out of the docking bays. The sight should have filled him with pride. Instead, it made his stomach turn. 47 years. That was how long humanity had been part of the Galactic Council. 47 years of trying to prove they belonged here. 47 years of being treated like children who had wandered into an adult conversation. The door behind him hissed open. Dr. Hana Park walked in carrying a datapad. Her face showed the same tired expression she had worn for months now. "Our council meeting starts in 10 minutes, she said. "Are you ready for another round of rejection?" Dongwoo turned away from the window. "They have to listen this time. The energy source we developed could change everything. No more wars over fuel, no more dead planets stripped of resources." Hana shook her head. "You still believe they care about what we have to offer?" "They have to. We are all part of the same galaxy." The walk to the council chambers took them through the main corridor of Nexus Prime. Alien beings of all shapes and sizes moved past them. Some looked like walking crystals that sang when they moved. Others were tall and thin with blue skin and forearms. A few looked like living plants that left a trail of sweet-smelling pollen behind them. None of them looked at the two humans. Captain Taemin Lee was waiting for them outside the council chambers. His security uniform was clean and pressed, but Dongwoo could see the tension in his shoulders. Being head of human security on a station where humans were barely tolerated was not an easy job. "Any problems today?" Dongwoo asked. "The usual." 3 human merchants were told their goods were not up to galactic standards. A human family was asked to leave the education sector because their children were too loud. Oh, and the Velkari delegation filed another complaint about human body odor. Dongwoo felt his jaw tighten. The Velkari were the worst of the council species. They looked like large reptiles that walked on 2 legs. Their skin was dark purple, and they had yellow eyes that seemed to look down on everything around them. "What? Did you tell them?" "I told them that humans bathe more often than most species on this station. They did not find that amusing." The council chamber doors opened. Inside was a circular room with 12 raised platforms. Each platform held the representatives of one species. The human platform was the smallest and positioned at the back where it was hard to see. Ambassador Ye Jin Choi was already at the human platform. She had been humanity's chief diplomat for 20 years. Her hair was now gray and her face showed the wear of countless battles fought with words instead of weapons. "The energy presentation is ready," she said as Dongwoo approached. "Though I doubt it will matter." The council session began with the usual formalities. Each species reported on their activities and trade agreements. When it came time for the human report, the chamber grew quiet. Not the quiet of attention, but the quiet of boredom. Dongwoo activated the holographic display. A 3-dimensional image appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a small device no bigger than a human hand. "Fellow council members," he began, "humanity is pleased to present the 0-point energy converter. This device can provide unlimited clean energy for any world or ship." The image changed to show test results. Charts and graphs filled the air showing energy output that dwarfed anything currently available. The converter uses quantum fluctuations in empty space to generate power. There are no fuel requirements, no waste products, no environmental damage. We offer this technology freely to all council species. Dongwoo waited for questions or comments. Instead, he heard something worse. Laughter. The Velkari representative rose from his platform. His name was Thakmor, and he was known for his hatred of younger species. His yellow eyes glowed with amusement. "The mammals believe they have made a discovery," he said. His voice was deep and rough like stones grinding together. "How charming. Perhaps next they will invent fire or the wheel." More laughter came from the other platforms. The crystalline collective chimed in harmony, their version of mocking laughter. The bioform hegemony made wet, bubbling sounds that served the same purpose. "The data is accurate," Dongwoo said, his voice rising. Our tests show consistent results across multiple environments. Tests performed by mammals, said the crystalline representative. Her voice was like wind chimes in a storm. Your species lacks the cognitive capacity for true scientific innovation. This is likely a misunderstanding of existing technology. Dr. Park stepped forward. If you would examine the data instead of dismissing it, you would see that this is genuine breakthrough science. We do not need to examine the primitive attempts of junior species, said the bioform representative. Its form shifted and bubbled as it spoke. The council has more important matters to discuss. The session moved on to other business. Trade disputes between the major species, military exercises in contested space, the expansion of mining operations. In the outer systems, humans were not consulted on any of these matters. When the session ended, Dongwu remained at the human platform while the other species filed out. Some of them were still making jokes about human arrogance. Others talked about the need to keep the younger species in their proper place. Ambassador Choi put her hand on his shoulder. It never gets easier, does it? How do they not see what we offer them? They see it. They just do not want to admit that humans might be capable of something they are not. Captain Lee approached with a grim expression. We have a problem. The council voted while you were presenting. Motion 447 passed. Dongwu felt his blood turn cold. What is Motion 447? Reduction of human representation on the council. We are being cut from 3 seats to 1. On what grounds? Limited contribution to galactic affairs. They are saying we have not proven our worth as full members. Dr. Park was checking her datapad. Her face had gone pale. It gets worse. I am reading reports from our colonies. Pirates attacked the mining station on Kepler 438b. The council fleet in that sector refused to respond to distress calls. What reason did they give? No reason. They just ignored the calls. Dongwu looked around the empty council chamber. The platforms of the major species still glowed with soft light, showing their importance. The human platform was already dimming, preparing to be moved to a smaller location. Sir, Captain Lee said quietly, there is something else. The Mammoth Research Station has been disbanded. Our scientists have been removed from the Joint Xenobiology Project. Why? The official reason is restructuring for efficiency. The unofficial reason is that several species complained about working with humans. Ambassador Choi was reading through more reports on her datapad. Trade restrictions have been placed on human goods in 3 major systems. Our shipping routes through Valkyrie space have been closed, and there is a new proposal being circulated. What kind of proposal? The Mammal Decree. It would officially classify humans as junior citizens of the galaxy, limited voting rights, restricted access to advanced technologies, mandatory supervision for all human activities outside of human space. Dongwu sat down heavily in his chair. Around him, the lights of the council chamber continued to dim. Soon the humans would be in darkness, while the other species literally and figuratively looked down on them. 47 years, he said quietly. 47 years of trying to be their friends, their partners, their equals. What do we do now? Dr. Park asked. Dongwu looked up at the empty platforms above them. Somewhere in the station, the representatives of 12 species were celebrating another day of keeping the mammals in their place. They were probably already planning new ways to humiliate humanity tomorrow. We continue to try, he said finally. What else can we do? But as he spoke those words, something cold and hard was growing in his chest. Something that had been patient for 47 years but was beginning to stir. Something that whispered that maybe trying was not enough anymore. The chamber lights went out completely, leaving the humans in darkness. Above them, the other species' platforms continued to glow, casting long shadows that seemed to reach down toward the humans like grasping fingers. In that darkness, none of them could see the future that was coming. None of them could imagine the day when those shadows would be swept away by a light that burned brighter than stars. But that day was coming, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 months had passed since the Mammal Decree became galactic law. Commander Dongwoo Kim watched from the bridge of the transport ship Harmony as another human convoy prepared for the journey to the Outer Rim. The forced relocation was happening, exactly as the Council had planned. Every human colony was being moved to what the aliens called the Reservation Zone, a cluster of dead systems at the edge of the galaxy where no other species wanted to live. The Council said it was for galactic security. Everyone knew it was to get humans out of sight and out of mind. "How many ships in this convoy?" Dongwoo asked. Captain Taemin Lee checked his display. 47 transport vessels. About 2 million humans total. This is the largest group so far. Through the viewport, Dongwoo could see the massive shapes of the transport ships. Each one carried thousands of families who had been forced to leave everything behind. Their homes, their businesses, their lives, all because the Council decided humans were too dangerous to live among civilized species. "Sir," came a voice from the communication station. "We have Admiral Boram Shin on the channel." The holographic display flickered to life. Admiral Shin appeared in full military dress uniform. Her face was hard as stone and her eyes burned with barely controlled anger. She commanded the human deep space fleet from her flagship, the Soul's Pride. "Commander Kim," she said, "I need to report a problem with the convoy schedule." "What kind of problem?" "The Velkari escorts are demanding we change our route. They want us to go through the Maelstrom Nebula instead of taking the safe passage." Dongwoo felt his stomach tighten. The Maelstrom Nebula was a dangerous region of space, filled with radiation storms and gravitational anomalies. Ships that entered it sometimes never came out. What reason did they give? They said the safe passage is needed for important Velkari trade ships. "Our convoy is not considered priority traffic." Dr. Hana Park, who had been quietly working at a nearby station, looked up with alarm. "The Nebula route will add 3 weeks to the journey. Our food supplies are already running low." "I told them that," Admiral Shin replied. "They said that was a human problem to solve." The communications officer interrupted. "Sir, we are receiving a priority distress signal." "Put it through." The display changed to show the bridge of another human ship. The captain was a young woman with fear in her eyes. Behind her, emergency lights were flashing red. "This is Captain So Young Han of the transport ship New Seoul. We have critical system failures across multiple decks. Life support is failing, and we are losing power to our engines." Dongwoo leaned forward. "How many people are aboard your ship?" 50,000, sir, including 8,000 children." The blood drained from Dongwoo's face. The New Seoul was one of the largest transport ships in the convoy. It carried families from the industrial colonies in the Beta sector. "What is your current position?" "We are drifting toward the Charybdis system. Our navigation is offline, and we cannot correct course." Dr. Park was already pulling up star charts on her display. Her face went white. "Commander, the Charybdis system has an unstable black hole. If their engines are dead, they will be pulled in within 6 hours." "Captain Han, this is Admiral Shin. I am dispatching rescue ships to your location immediately." "Thank you, Admiral, but I need to tell you something else. We are not alone out here. There are 3 council ships in our sector, a Velkari battle cruiser, a crystalline mining vessel, and a bioform science ship." Dongwoo felt a spark of hope. "Have you contacted them for assistance?" Captain Han's expression darkened. "Yes, sir. All 3 ships acknowledged our distress signal. The Velkari captain said they were too busy with security patrols to help. The crystalline ship said their equipment was not compatible with human technology. The bioform ship just cut the channel without responding." The spark of hope died in Dongwoo's chest. 3 ships, 3 chances to save 50,000 human lives. And all 3 had chosen to do nothing. "Sir," the communications officer said, urgently, "I am monitoring Council fleet channels. The Velkari battlecruiser is actually moving away from the distress area." Dongwoo closed his eyes. When he opened them again, something had changed in his expression, something cold and final. "Admiral Shin, how long until your rescue ships reach the New Seoul?" 4 hours at maximum burn. But Commander, I need to tell you what my engineers found when they examined the other failed ships." "What did they find?" "Nanobots. Alien-made devices designed to cause system failures during long journeys. Someone sabotaged our ships. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of engines and the beeping of computers. Dongwu stared at the display showing Captain Han's desperate face. Behind her, he could see crew members running through corridors filled with smoke. The Council did this on purpose, Dr. Park whispered. They wanted our ships to fail during the relocation. Why? Dongwu asked, though he already knew the answer. Dead humans cannot cause problems for the Galactic Order, Admiral Shin said grimly. This was never about relocation. This was about elimination. The next 3 hours passed in tense silence. Admiral Shin's rescue ships pushed their engines beyond safe limits, racing toward the new Sol. Meanwhile, the Council ships in the area continued their regular activities as if 50,000 humans were not dying nearby. The crystalline mining ship was actually harvesting resources from asteroids less than 1 light hour away from the disaster. Close enough to help, far enough to pretend they could not. Status report, Dongwu demanded. Admiral Shin's ships are still 2 hours out, the communications officer replied. The new Sol is accelerating toward the black hole. They have lost main power completely. What about the Council ships? The Valkyrie battlecruiser has moved to the outer edge of the system. They are now 8 hours away from the new Sol. The crystalline mining ship continues operations. The bioform science vessel is conducting research on gravitational effects. Dr. Park looked up from her calculations. They are studying the black hole while humans die in it. Captain Taemin Lee had been silent during the crisis. Now he spoke up with barely controlled rage. Permission to take a security team to the Council ships, sir. To do what? To remind them of their duty to preserve life. Request denied. We cannot start a war while our people are dying. The waiting continued. Every minute brought the new Sol closer to the point of no return. Every minute that passed was another life slipping away. Finally, Admiral Shin's voice crackled over the communications. Commander Kim, we have reached the new Sol. Beginning emergency evacuation. How many can you save? There was a long pause. We managed to evacuate 49,153 people. Dongwu did the math in his head. His hands began to shake. What about the others? 847 casualties, sir. Most of them were in the lower decks when the life support failed. We could not reach them in time. 847 people. 847 human beings who had died while 3 Council ships watched and did nothing. Men, women, and children who had committed no crime except being born human. The communications officer spoke again. Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. Put it through. The display showed the interior of the Council, chambers on Nexus Prime. The Valkyrie representative Thakmor was speaking into the camera with his usual arrogant expression. The Council has received reports of reckless human activity in the Charybdis system. We are filing formal charges against the human fleet for endangering galactic shipping lanes and disturbing scientific research operations. The display went dark. Commander Dongwu Kim stood in the silence of his bridge. Around him, his crew waited for orders. Admiral Shin's image still glowed on the holographic display, her face showing the exhaustion of someone who had just watched people die. Commander, she said quietly, what are your instructions? Dongwu looked around at the faces of his people. Dr. Park, with her scientific mind that believed in truth and justice. Captain Lee, with his warrior's heart that burned for revenge. The crew members who had served humanity faithfully for decades while being treated like animals. He thought about the 847 people who had died today. He thought about 47 years of patience. 47 years of trying to be reasonable. 47 years of believing that kindness would eventually be answered with kindness. Admiral Shin, he said, his voice perfectly calm. Please prepare a message for immediate transmission to all human ships, colonies, and installations across the galaxy. What should the message say, sir? Dongwu walked to the viewport and looked out at the stars. Somewhere among those points of light were the worlds of the species that had laughed at human technology. The species that had passed laws treating humans like children. The species that had watched humans die and filed complaints about the inconvenience. Tell them, he said, turning back to face the display, that we tried to be their partners. We tried to be their friends. We tried to be patient. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice carried a promise that would echo across the galaxy. That ends now. The message went out on a frequency that every human in the galaxy would recognize, a frequency that had been kept secret for 47 years, a frequency that connected every human ship, every human colony, every human heart, with a single purpose. The age of human patience had ended. The age of human justice was about to begin. The message reached Earth first. In the deepest bunkers beneath the Rocky Mountains, machines that had been silent for 47 years suddenly came to life. Warning lights flashed red across control rooms that no alien had ever seen. Computer screens displayed words that would have terrified the Galactic Council if they had known they existed. Protocol. Omega activated all Prometheus systems online. Ghost Fleet, standing by General Kyung-ho Jang, stood in the main command center watching as decades of secret preparation finally revealed itself. Around him, hundreds of technicians worked at stations controlling systems that officially did not exist. Status report, he ordered. Dr. Yoon-ji Lim looked up from her console. She was the director of the Prometheus project and the woman who had spent 20 years building weapons the galaxy had never imagined. All Ghost Fleet vessels are responding. 500 ships decloaking across 12 sectors. Weapon systems at full charge. All human colonies are activating defense networks. What about the sleeper agents? 47 years of deep cover operatives are now active. We have people in every council government, every military command, every research facility. They have been watching and learning everything about our enemies. General Jang nodded. The Prometheus project had been humanity's greatest secret. While human diplomats smiled and bowed before the council, human scientists had been developing weapons specifically designed to destroy each alien species. Show me the tactical display. The main screen changed to show a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red dots appeared everywhere, showing the location of human forces. There were far more red dots than anyone in the council would have believed possible. Sir, came a voice from the communications station. We are receiving a transmission from Admiral Bo-Ram Shin. Put her through. Admiral Shin appeared on the screen. Behind her, the bridge of the Soul's Pride hummed with activity. But now the ship looked different. Panels had opened to reveal weapon systems that had been hidden for decades. The bridge crew wore black uniforms instead of the diplomatic blue they had worn before. General Jang, she said. The human convoy is safe. All transport ships have been fitted with their real defense systems. We are no longer helpless sheep being led to slaughter. Excellent. What is the status of our targets? The Velkari Empire is about to receive a surprise visit. Captain Hyun-Soo Kang is moving the Ghost Fleet into position around their homeworld. And the others? The Crystalline Collective is being surrounded as we speak. The bioform hegemony will find their space lanes blocked within the hour. All council species are about to learn what happens when you mistake patience for weakness. General Jang smiled for the first time in months. Begin Phase 1. Across the galaxy, the transformation began. Human cargo ships suddenly opened hidden compartments filled with fighter craft. Human mining stations revealed themselves to be military bases. Human research facilities activated weapon systems that could crack moons in half. The Velkari Empire received the first demonstration of human patience coming to an end. Captain Hyun-Soo Kang stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Retribution. Around him, his crew worked with the quiet efficiency of people who had been waiting decades for this moment. Through the viewport, he could see the purple and gold world of Velkaris Prime, homeworld of the species that had called humans animals. Sir, his weapons officer reported. All Ghost Fleet vessels are in position. The Velkari Home Fleet is requesting our identification. Tell them we are the consequences of their actions, Kang replied. Dr. Lim, are you ready to show them what human science can really do? Dr. Yoon-ji Lim appeared on his communication screen from her laboratory on Earth. Behind her, technicians monitored devices that bent the laws of physics in ways the Council had never imagined. "The quantum dissolution torpedo is armed and ready," she said. "Target the uninhabited moon Velcaris 7. We want them to see what restraint looks like." Fire. The torpedo launched from the Retribution. It was small, no bigger than a human fist. The Velcari sensors barely detected it as it streaked toward the barren moon that orbited their homeworld. The moon did not explode when the torpedo hit. It simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, a gray ball of rock and ice. The next moment there was empty space where it had been. No debris, no flash of light, no energy signature. The moon had been erased from reality. On Velcari's prime, billions of purple reptilian beings stared up at their sky in horror. A moon that had hung in their heavens for millions of years was gone. In its place was a message written in burning letters across space. "This is mercy. Surrender. Now or face justice." The Velcari Emperor appeared on communication channels minutes later. His yellow eyes were wide with terror and his voice shook as he spoke. "Unknown human vessels, we demand to know the meaning of this attack." Captain Kang appeared on screens across the Velcari homeworld. His face was calm, but his eyes held the cold fire of someone who had watched friends die while others did nothing to help. "I am Captain Kang of the Human Ghost Fleet. For 47 years you have treated my people like animals. You laughed at our science. You ignored our dying. You called us weak because we chose peace over war." The Emperor tried to interrupt, but Kang continued speaking. "Today you learn the difference between a species that chooses peace and a species that cannot fight. We could have been your greatest allies. Instead, you chose to make us your most dangerous enemy." Meanwhile, in the Crystalline Collective's home system, another demonstration was taking place. The crystal beings who had mocked human intelligence were about to learn how thoroughly they had been outsmarted. Specialist Jiwon Seo sat in a control room that did not officially exist. Her fingers moved across keyboards connected to systems, buried deep in crystalline computer networks. For 20 years she had been the ghost in their machines, learning their secrets and preparing for this day. "All crystalline communication networks are under human control," she reported to General Zhang. "Their military commands cannot talk to their fleets. Their governments cannot coordinate responses. We own their entire information infrastructure." "How is that possible?" the general asked. "Every piece of human technology they rejected actually contained hidden programs. Every human diplomat who visited their worlds planted invisible software in their systems. They thought they were so superior to mammals that they never imagined we could outwit them." The Crystalline Collective's leaders found themselves locked out of their own computers. Worse, their ships began broadcasting messages they had not authorized, confessions of their crimes against humanity, admissions that they had helped sabotage human vessels, evidence of their secret plans to eliminate humans entirely. The bioform hegemony faced their own nightmare. The shape-shifting aliens who had made wet, bubbling sounds of mockery were now screaming in terror as their biology turned against them. Dr. Yoonji Lim had spent 15 years studying samples of bioform tissue that human spies had collected. She had learned exactly how their shape-changing bodies worked. More importantly, she had learned how to make them stop working. Bioform ships across their territory suddenly found their crews unable to maintain solid form. The aliens dissolved into puddles of confused protoplasm, unable to understand what was happening to them. They were not dying, but they were completely helpless. A message appeared on every screen in bioform space. "Your bodies will return to normal when you surrender. Choose quickly." Back on Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council was in emergency session. Representatives from 12 species shouted at each other in panic and confusion. The species that had once been so confident in their superiority were now faced with the impossible. Humans, the weakest members of the Council, had somehow become the most powerful force in the galaxy. Commander Dongwoo Kim walked into the council chambers wearing a uniform that none of them had seen before. It was black as space with silver stars that seemed to glow with their own light. Behind him walked 50 human soldiers in similar uniforms, their faces showing no emotion. "Honorable council members," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "We need to talk." The Velkari representative Takmor tried to stand, but his legs were shaking too badly. "This is an act of war. The Council will not tolerate this aggression." Kim looked at him with the same expression he might give to an insect. "War? This is not war. War is what happens between equals. This is justice." He activated a holographic display that showed the tactical situation across the galaxy. Red dots representing human forces surrounded every council world. "For 47 years you treated us like children who had wandered into an adult conversation. You laughed at our science while we were building these weapons. You mocked our diplomacy while we were placing agents in your governments. You ignored our dying while we were preparing your judgment." The display changed to show the faces of the 847 humans who had died on the New Sol. Men, women, and children who had committed no crime, except being born human. These people died because you wanted them to die. You sabotaged our ships and then filed complaints when we saved who we could. You showed us exactly what kind of beings you really are. Kim looked around the chamber at the terrified faces of the species that had once ruled the galaxy. "Now you get to learn what kind of beings we really are." The chamber fell silent except for the sound of alien hearts beating with fear. Outside the station, human ships waited in formation, their weapons charged and ready. The ghost fleet that had hidden in shadows for decades now controlled the space around the Council's seat of power. The age of alien supremacy was over. The age of human dominance had begun. Fleet Admiral Teho Bay stood on the command deck of the massive human dreadnought Eternal Fury as it approached the Crystalline Collective's capital system. Behind him stretched a fleet of 300 human warships, each one bristling with weapons that the galaxy had never seen before. The crystalline beings had tried to negotiate after their computer networks were captured. They offered trade agreements, technology exchanges, and promises of future cooperation. The humans had given them a simple response: surrender unconditionally or face complete destruction. "Admiral," came a voice from the communication station. "The Crystalline Defense Fleet is moving to intercept us." "How many ships?" 2,000 vessels, sir. They outnumber us 6-1. Admiral Bay smiled without humor. "They still do not understand. Show them what real technology looks like." The crystalline ships opened fire first. Beams of crystalline energy that could cut through asteroid belts struck the human fleet. The weapons that had made the Crystalline Collective the second most powerful species in the galaxy hit the human ships and simply vanished. "Sir," the weapons officer reported, "their energy weapons are being absorbed by our quantum barriers. No damage to any human vessels. Return fire. Use the neural disruptors." The human ships responded with weapons that did not destroy the crystalline vessels. Instead, the crystal beings inside the ships simply stopped thinking. 2,000 enemy vessels drifted helplessly in space as their crews fell into dreamless sleep. "This is Admiral Bay to the Crystalline High Council," he broadcast on all frequencies. "Your defense fleet is defeated. Your homeworld is surrounded. You have 1 hour to surrender, or we will demonstrate what happens to species that participate in genocide." Meanwhile, in another part of the galaxy, Dr. Sujin Park was conducting a very different kind of warfare. The human psychologist sat in a comfortable chair aboard the research vessel Mind's Eye, surrounded by screens showing alien communication networks. "The fear campaigns are working perfectly," she reported to General Zhang on Earth. "The bioform hegemony's leadership is falling apart. Half of them are begging for mercy while the other half are trying to blame their subordinates. What about the smaller species? The insectoid swarm surrendered an hour ago. The gas giant collective is offering to serve as human vassals. The machine worlds are requesting immediate protection from human forces. Dr. Park's work was perhaps the most devastating weapon in humanity's arsenal. She understood how alien minds worked and exactly how to break them. The species that had mocked human emotions were now drowning in their own fear and despair. On her main screen, she watched as bioform leaders dissolved into puddles of terror, unable to maintain their shapes long enough to coordinate any kind of response. Their proud empire was crumbling not from weapons, but from the simple knowledge that humans were coming for them. "Sir," her assistant said, We are receiving surrender requests from 47 minor species. They are all begging for mercy and offering to serve humanity. Accept their surrenders, Dr. Park replied. Add them to the protection list. We are not conquerors. We are delivering justice. The distinction was important. Colonel Min-Ho Yu and his Retribution Corps were making sure that everyone in the galaxy understood the difference between justice and revenge. Colonel Yu sat in his command center aboard the hunter-killer ship Final Justice, reviewing the list of individuals who had been marked for human justice. These were not random aliens or innocent civilians. These were the specific beings who had voted for the Mammal Decree, who had ignored human distress calls, who had sabotaged human ships. Status report on the priority targets, he ordered. Intelligence Director A-Ra Kim appeared on his communication screen. Behind her, the walls were covered with photographs and data files on thousands of alien officials. We have located 93% of all individuals responsible for crimes against humanity. Velkari Emperor Thak-Mor is in custody. The Crystalline High Counselor who ordered the sabotage nanobots has been captured. The Bioform War Master who refused to help the New Soul is being held on the prison ship Judgment Day. What about the military officers who ignored our distress calls? All 27 of them are now in human custody. The Velkari Admiral, who ordered his ships to move away from dying humans, is currently experiencing what it feels like to be abandoned and helpless. Colonel Yu nodded with satisfaction. This was not mindless revenge. Every arrest had been carefully planned. Every target had been chosen for specific crimes against humanity. The aliens would learn that actions had consequences. Sir, came a voice from the tracking station. We have located the final priority target, Bioform Research Director Gulvash. He was the one who developed the nanobots used to sabotage our ships. Where is he? Hiding in a research station in the Outer Rim. He thinks he is safe because the station is in neutral space. Deploy Hunter Team 7. Bring him back alive. He needs to face judgment for the 847 people he helped murder. As the Colonel's teams hunted down war criminals, Admiral Bay was approaching the moment that would define the new galactic order. The Crystalline Collective's homeworld hung before him like a giant jewel, its crystal cities reflecting starlight in beautiful patterns. It was also the most heavily defended world in crystalline space, protected by orbital platforms that could destroy entire fleets. The platforms were now offline, their crystal operators sleeping peacefully under the effects of human neural disruptors. Admiral, the communications officer announced, the Crystalline High Council is requesting permission to speak with you. Put them through. The main screen showed a chamber filled with crystal beings of different colors and sizes. Their song-like voices were filled with harmony, but underneath the music was pure terror. Admiral Bay, their leader sang, we wish to discuss terms for our surrender. There are no terms, the Admiral replied. You will surrender unconditionally and submit to human authority. All individuals responsible for crimes against humanity will be turned over for trial. All military forces will be disbanded. All advanced weapons will be destroyed. That is complete subjugation. That is justice. You participated in an attempt to commit genocide against the human species. You sabotaged our ships and watched our people die. Now you face the consequences. The crystal beings sang among themselves, in harmonies too complex for human ears to follow. Finally, their leader spoke again. We accept your terms. The Crystalline Collective surrenders to human authority. Wise choice. Your people will be treated fairly under human rule. Those who committed crimes will face trial. Those who are innocent will be protected. This is more mercy than you showed us. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. The Velkari Empire had fallen in less than 6 hours. Their mighty fleet, once the terror of the galaxy, had been reduced to drifting hulks by weapons that turned their own armor against them. The proud reptilian warriors who had called humans weak now cowered in their bunkers begging for mercy. The bioform hegemony lasted even less time. When their shape-changing abilities failed, their entire military collapsed. Their leaders, reduced to helpless puddles of protoplasm, could only watch as human forces took control of their worlds without firing a shot. General Zhang stood in his command center on Earth, watching as red dots representing human control spread across the galactic map. In less than one day, humanity had gone from the weakest species in the Council to the undisputed masters of the galaxy. "Sir," Dr. Lim reported, "we are receiving surrender offers from the last holdout species. The deep space nomads and the void dwellers are both requesting immediate protection under human authority. Status of our primary objectives: all former Council worlds are under human control. All war criminals are in custody or being hunted. All alien military forces have been neutralized or surrendered. Casualties? Minimal, sir. 17 humans wounded, none killed. Alien casualties are also light. Most of their forces simply stopped functioning when we disabled their technology." General Zhang allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. 47 years of careful planning had resulted in the most complete military victory in galactic history. More importantly, it had been achieved with minimal loss of life on both sides. What about Nexus Prime? Admiral Bay's fleet is moving into position around the station. Commander Kim reports that the Council is ready to formally surrender. The general looked up at the main display showing the space around Earth. Human ships filled the sky, no longer hiding in the shadows. The ghost fleet that had remained secret for decades was now revealed in all its terrible glory. But the most important sight was the stream of alien ships approaching Earth. These were not invasion fleets or conquering armies. They were delegations carrying surrender documents and requests for mercy. The species that had once ruled the galaxy were coming to bow before the world they had dismissed as primitive. "Open a channel to all human forces," General Zhang ordered. "Channel open, sir." "This is General Zhang to all human military units. Phase 2 is complete. All primary targets are secured. All war criminals are in custody. The former Galactic Council has been defeated." He paused, thinking of the 847 people who had died on the New Sol. Their deaths had not been in vain. They had become the spark that lit the fire of human justice. "Phase 3 begins now. We are no longer the hunted, we are no longer the weak. We are no longer the ignored. Today the galaxy learns that humans are not just another species. We are the species that remembers. We are the species that seeks justice. We are the species that never forgives genocide." The communication ended, but the message echoed across human space. From Earth to the outer colonies, from the Ghost Fleet to the secret bases, every human heard the same truth. The age of alien domination was over forever. The age of human justice had begun. 6 months had passed since the fall of the Galactic Council. President Jae-hoon Song stood at the podium in the Great Assembly Hall on Earth, looking out at representatives from every species in the galaxy. The hall had been built where the old United Nations building once stood, but it was larger and grander than anything humanity had constructed before. The beings sitting in the curved rows before him were the same aliens who had once laughed at human science and ignored human suffering. Now they listened to every word he spoke with the attention of students learning from a master. "Fellow citizens of the galaxy," President Song began, "today marks the beginning of a new era, an era where justice replaces oppression, where merit replaces privilege, where cooperation replaces domination." In the front row sat the former emperor of the Velkari Empire. The proud reptilian being who had once called humans animals now wore simple gray robes instead of royal purple. His yellow eyes, once filled with arrogance, now showed only humble respect. Behind him sat representatives of the crystalline collective, their crystal bodies dimmed to show submission. The bioform delegates had taken solid forms and remained perfectly still, afraid that any movement might be seen as disrespect. The old Galactic Council believed that some species were born to rule while others were born to serve. President Song continued. This was wrong. Under human authority, every species will be judged by their actions, not their biology. Every being will have the chance to prove their worth through service to the common good. Director Hai-Wan Choi sat at a control station overlooking the assembly. She was head of the Galactic Reconstruction Commission and the person responsible for rebuilding the galaxy according to human values. Her screens showed progress reports from thousands of worlds where the work of justice was taking place. Status of the war crimes trials? She asked her assistant. All major defendants have been processed, ma'am. Former Emperor Thakmor was sentenced to life in prison for genocide. The Crystalline High Counselor received 50 years for sabotage resulting in death. The Bioform War Master got 30 years for abandoning civilians in distress. What about rehabilitation programs? Very successful. 70% of former Council military officers have completed the justice education courses. They are being assigned to humanitarian duties under human supervision. The rehabilitation programs were President Song's idea. Rather than simply punishing the aliens who had committed crimes against humanity, the new government offered them a chance to learn human values and make amends for their actions. "Sir," came another voice from the monitoring station. "We have a report from Marshal Jinsu Quan on Velcaris Prime." Marshal Quan appeared on the communication screen. Behind him stood the gleaming towers of the Velcari capital. But now human flags flew from every building. The site that had once symbolized alien supremacy now represented human justice. "President Song," the Marshal reported. "The reconstruction of Velcari society is proceeding ahead of schedule. Former slave species are being integrated into positions of authority. The old caste system has been completely dismantled. Any resistance from the former ruling class? Minor protests at first, but they stopped when we showed them the alternative. Most Velcari citizens are actually grateful for the changes. They never realized how much their own people suffered under the old system." President Song nodded. This was exactly what humanity had hoped to achieve. By showing the galaxy a better way to live, they were not just conquering their enemies, but converting them into allies. What about the economic reforms? The tribute system has been completely eliminated. Worlds that were forced to send resources to the Council are now keeping their wealth for local development. Prosperity is increasing across all former Velcari territories. Ambassador Sun Mi Kang rose from her seat in the assembly. She had been chosen to address the galaxy on behalf of all human diplomatic efforts. Her words would be broadcast to every world, every ship, every being in known space. 6 months ago, she began, humanity was the weakest species in this galaxy. We were mocked for our science, ignored in our suffering, and marked for elimination by those who saw us as inferior. The alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Many of them had been present when humans were dismissed and humiliated. Now they served under the species they had once considered primitive. Today we stand as the guardians of galactic peace and justice. But we did not achieve this position through conquest alone. We achieved it because we never forgot our values, even when others tried to destroy us. She gestured toward the memorial wall that dominated one side of the assembly hall. 847 names were carved into black stone, each one representing a human who had died aboard the New Soul. Golden light illuminated the names, ensuring they would never be forgotten. These people died because those who had power chose cruelty over compassion. They died because mercy was seen as weakness, and justice was ignored for convenience. Their deaths taught the galaxy a lesson that will never be forgotten. The former Velcari Emperor stood slowly from his seat. His voice, once filled with arrogant authority, now trembled with emotion. "Ambassador Kang," he said, "I request permission to speak." Permission granted. "I was the one who called your people animals. I was the one who voted for the laws that treated humans as inferior beings. I was the one who refused to help when your ships were dying." The hall fell completely silent. Every being present could hear the weight of guilt in the alien's words. "I have spent 6 months learning about human values. Justice, mercy, equality, compassion. These are concepts my people never understood because we never had leaders who taught them to us. Under human rule, I have seen former enemies become friends. I have seen former slaves become leaders. I have seen a galaxy where every being matters regardless of their species." He looked directly at the memorial wall with its glowing names. "I cannot bring back the humans who died because of my choices, but I can spend the rest of my life serving the values they died for. I pledge myself to human authority not because I am forced to, But because humanity represents everything my people should have been, the crystalline representative sang a harmony of agreement. The bioform delegate changed its shape to mirror human form as a sign of respect. One by one, every alien in the assembly stood and repeated the same pledge. Dr. Hannah Park, now Director of Galactic Cultural Affairs, watched from her observation booth as former enemies became willing servants of human justice. She had spent 47 years studying alien cultures and learning their languages. Now she was teaching them to understand human values. The Memory Keepers project is ready for activation, she reported to President Song. Proceed with the launch. Across the galaxy, monuments began to appear on every world. Some honored the humans who had died during the years of persecution. Others celebrated the alien beings who had chosen redemption over resistance. All of them carried the same message carved in every known language. Remember the price of cruelty. Remember the Yao. Power of justice. Remember that mercy is strength. Never forget the lessons of patience. The monuments were more than just stone and metal. They were equipped with holographic displays that told the complete story of humanity's rise to power. Every child in the galaxy, human and alien alike, would grow up knowing exactly what had happened and why. President Song concluded his address to the assembly with words that would become the foundation of the new galactic constitution. We offer every species the same choice we offered the old Galactic Council. You can choose cooperation and be welcomed as equals in building a better galaxy. You can choose resistance and face the full weight of human justice. Or you can choose the path of redemption and help us create a civilization worthy of the beings who live in it. He paused, looking out at the faces of aliens who had once been enemies and were now becoming partners in building something greater than any single species could achieve alone. The galaxy has seen what happens when humans lose their patience. The galaxy has learned that we are not just another species competing for dominance. We are the species that remembers. We are the species that seeks justice. We are the species that builds bridges instead of walls. But most importantly, we are the species that gives second chances to those who prove they deserve them. As the assembly ended and representatives returned to their worlds, the work of building the new galactic order continued. Human engineers worked alongside crystalline technicians to develop better technologies. Velkari soldiers served under human commanders to protect the weak from those who would exploit them. Bioform scientists used their shape-changing abilities to help terraform dead worlds into gardens. The galaxy was healing under human guidance. Species that had been enemies for millions of years were learning to work together. Worlds that had been strip-mined by the old council were being restored to life. Justice was replacing oppression everywhere human authority reached. In the memorial garden outside the Great Assembly Hall, Commander Dongwoo Kim sat on a bench, beneath the monument to the New Soul victims. He was older now, his hair gray and his face lined with the weight of leadership, but his eyes still held the same determination that had carried humanity through its darkest hour. Dr. Hannah Park joined him on the bench. She too showed the wear of the past months, but there was a peace in her expression that had not been there during the years of persecution. "Do you think they truly understand?" she asked. "Do they really know why this all happened?" "Commander," Kim looked up at the memorial where golden light played across the names of the dead. In the distance, he could see human and alien children playing together in the garden, their laughter carrying on the warm earth breeze. "They understand that actions have consequences," he said. "They understand that patience is not weakness, and mercy is not surrender. Most importantly, they understand that humans remember everything. And the ones who died on the New Soul? They are remembered too. Every law we pass, every world we heal, every species we help redeem their past. Mistakes. All of it is their memorial. They died as innocents so that no innocent would die again." The sun was setting over Earth, painting the sky in colors of red and gold. Across the galaxy, similar sunsets were falling on worlds where humans now stood, guard against injustice. The species that had once mocked human emotions now served under the guidance of those same emotions made into law. The galaxy would never forget the moment human patience finally broke. More importantly, It would never forget the justice that followed. The memory keepers would ensure that the story was told on every world, to every generation. The price of cruelty would be remembered. The power of justice would be celebrated. And somewhere among the stars, the children of Earth continued their eternal watch, making sure that no species would ever again mistake human patience for human weakness. The galaxy had learned its lesson, and the galaxy would never forget.